What if I told you that your hard work could go completely unnoticed by people who actually shape your career? And it's not because you're doing a bad work, but it's because you're doing a wrong work and invisible work. Every day I speak with team managers, engineering leads, and I see a similar pattern. People who are fixing other people's mistakes, taking ownership and responsibilities, building companies, teams, and products actually goes unnoticed. And for people like you and me, it's kind of feel weird to brag about our accomplishments and we expect other people to see, but they actually never do. So let's think about how to get promoted in tech leadership positions without burning out and without selling your soul. One of the biggest issues that I see in online promotion tips is that they are very subjective. What works for one person might not work for the other and vice versa. Especially if we are speaking about technology. Rules of the game here are completely different than comparing to, let's say, manufacturing or sales or finances. During my 10 years career of leading dozens of technology teams and now 6 years of mentoring and training thousands of technology managers, I came up with an exact system on how to get promoted to a technology leadership positions. Today, I will share the exact plan and exact 4 steps that help my team members and later my clients go from individual contributors to team leads and from the team leads to middle managers and beyond. Fellowship of the Ring needed a map of the Middle Earth to go and destroy the ring. My kids running around also usually draw maps to reach their dream destination. So for you to have a thoughtful career in tech, you also need a roadmap. Let me be your guide for this one. You need to understand how decisions are made, how work flows throughout your team, and what good looks like in your environment. Find people who already know how things work, like senior individual contributors, other leads, your manager, and learn from them. This is the period where you are absorbing the context, mastering processes, and understanding how to unblock others instead of just yourself. At the same time, you need to map your stakeholders, not just your direct team, but your manager's manager, cross-functional partners, and the people your team depends on. Try to identify who cares about your team input, who need to collaborate with, and who has influence over your and your team's success. Now, you can lead effectively if you know the system you are operating in. And with your own manager, the best thing you can do early is to ask for help and clarity. So, get clear success metrics, ask for introductions, get paired with a mentor, if that's applicable, and establish a consistent rhythm of one-on-ones where you can ask questions, surface concerns, and check if you are moving into the right direction. You are not expected to know everything yet. You are expected to learn, and to learn fast. Now, months 6 through 12 are about something else, over-delivering. This is where you shift your understanding the job to exceeding the expectations, not by doing more hours, not by doing the work yourself, but by enabling your team to deliver more. You're looking for ways to optimize processes, unblock friction, and raise the performance bar. This is where you start building your reputation, not as like a new team lead, but as someone who actually makes shit happen. With the stakeholders, the game shifts from identification to impression. You want people you collaborate with to say, this team is solid, and ideally, this team lead is on top of the things. One of the best signals is when someone you worked with mentions your wins in their performance reviews and for their manager. Now, this is your name starts circulating upward without you having to brag. And this is a crucial one. While with your own manager, this is where you begin to communicate expectations. You want to be direct about your career goals, including promotions or an expanded scope. You also want to get feedback on skill gaps, not guessing, but real data you can actually act on. This is how you get aligned on the path ahead instead of being surprised like a year or 2 later. Now we move into months 12 to 18. The phase where most tech leads either stagnate or accelerate. So I want you to be the one who actually accelerates. So this phase is all about increasing visibility. Your work should not be invisible. Share insights, share learnings, share failures. Mentor new joiners, look for chances to present to larger groups. You want leadership, not only your manager, to understand your impact. On the stakeholder side, you shift from impressing to engaging. This means giving valuable updates, asking for input, and keeping the communication proactive. It also means sending clear pre-read emails, following up, and making it easy for people to work with you. Stakeholders love team leads who reduce friction, so make it your main responsibility. Now, with your manager, it's now about tracking progress. How is your team contributed to a broader OKRs or KPIs? How are you performing against the leadership expectations of your company? And who else in the organization can become an advocate for your growth? You're no longer looking at the next few sprints, you are actually looking at your next role. Finally, 18 to 24 months. If you've done everything before this right, you are entering the phase where your trajectory becomes very visible. You are no longer proving you can lead, you are showing you can scale your leadership. Bigger scope, more influence, higher expectations. By this point, you should have strong reputation, strong relationships, and a track record of tangible results. And leadership sees you as someone who is not just managing team, but driving real outcome for the business. The truth is, your first 2 years as a team lead can either set you up for promotion, rises, bigger checks, and long-term success, or trap you in a role where you are constantly overworked and undervalued. When you approach these 24 months with clarity, you build momentum. When you approach it with guesswork, you end up firefighting and burning out. And unfortunately, I saw hundreds of managers go in both directions. And this is why understanding this journey and following it intentionally becomes your competitive advantage. By the way, if you want to avoid months of guessworking and have this roadmap made tailored for you, you can find ways to work with me in the description below. As you can see in the roadmap, there is a lot of movement in building a relationship. And one of the mostly overlooked relationship is actually with your mentor. So having a person who is not directly your manager, but someone else, preferably maybe a peer of your manager, will set you up for the success as fast as anything. You want your mentor to be actually motivated to mentor you and be at least one level above, so the mentor can see a little bit broader aspects what is happening in your organization, a bit wider context, and also have a little bit more experience than you. Now, ideally, you would like to set up a routine meeting with your mentor. It could be once per week, it could be once per month, but I would not recommend meeting less than once per month. And you would like to structure your mentorship meeting in a very conscious manner. You need to ask a specific questions to get a specific outcome and to actually collapse time and close that gap between where you are now and where you want to go as fast as possible, so you can use the examples I have. You can stop this video and screenshot the questions, please do. Having the right questions at the right time can provide a lot of great inputs into your daily performance and in your career growth. Ask questions such as, what is something everyone else considers essential, but you realized you could ignore it immediately? Or which channels, communities, or environments helped you build your strongest professional relationship? Or what belief or assumption from 5 or a couple of years ago did you have to unlearn to make a real progress? Or what challenges should I expect to run into as I grow into this role? Having a mentor could help you open different doors in the organization. For example, meet your manager peers or your manager. So you can build those kind of relationship, understand better what is going on in the organization, especially if you are just starting out. If you are already well known in the organization, be conscious about building those relationships because it will help your own performance, it will help your team, it will help to reduce the friction not only for your career growth, but also for the results that your team deliver, and ideally for the results that are taken care of your manager's manager or your manager's peer. So you're kind of making the life easier for everyone, and this is a very valued colleague. While understanding the roadmap, you also need to understand how to communicate more assertive, meaning that you are able to directly translate of what you mean, but also be polite and be able to draw the right boundaries and say no when it's needed. In the context of career growth, assertive communication could mean that you are very clear and direct about the skills gap that you have. If you're once junior, you know what kind of steps you need to take in order to become mid engineer or senior engineer. And the same goes with leadership levels. You need to understand what kind of skills or knowledge gaps you have, your own skills and knowledge gaps that you need to fill up in order to get that new role. So it could be project management, it could be product development, it could be even DevOps knowledge, it could be soft human skills such as feedback, communication, presentation, emotional intelligence. And once you identify those, ask your manager to create opportunities for you. Perhaps you want to have that new AWS certification, or you want to become better at managing Scrum team. Be very clear and direct what exact steps you need to take to be big enough to fill the next role. Understanding the roadmap, being able to assertively communicate your skill gaps and understand what is the next step for you is important. But also it is important to know what kind of success metrics they are most important in the organization, in your department, in your team. Identify those metrics and keep the score. It could be revenue, it could be savings, it could be new acquired customers, it could be that sweet 99.99% uptime that you are striving for. And you are identifying the metric and also creating a very simple system on how to track it. Hopefully your team and your organization have some kind of dashboards to track the metrics, but if they don't, you could also create your own tracking dashboard. It shouldn't be super complicated with a lot of moving parts, a lot of Zapier or JavaScript integrations and automations. You don't need to do that exactly. You can be very strict and direct with opening a Google Doc and creating a very simple tracking sheet that helps you to put things in perspective month after month after month and easy to present when the right time comes. For example, it could be your team velocity, how many tasks, story points, or tickets you closed during the sprint. Or it could also be your employee engagement and satisfaction, so you run employee net promoter score. Be sure to identify those metrics, track the metrics, and then be able to compare the metrics between different teams and departments of your organization. Then you know how well you are doing and what are the gaps that you need to fill, what kind of failures you need to fix, and what kind of exact process parts you need to optimize. As always, it is not a guessworking or it's not looking what other organization does, but it is about understanding your own unique disposition, your own point A, where you are standing at, and what kind of context of the business are running around you. Pro tip: be master of one. Identify and dominate the unique niche or skill that nobody wants or it is very boring. It creates a standout value and visibility. You could excel at Excel skills. Okay, that joke. I'm not even sorry I can do that, okay? So if you are good at Excel or Jira or GitHub, it could be your unique skill that you have more knowledge, more information, more insight than any of your colleagues. You may be good with visuals or design or numbers or any kind of other skill that is kind of unfulfilled currently in your team or even better in your organization. For me, it was presenting our product, and I'm not a technical person. Our product was very technical at the time. It was last mile delivery optimization for one of the biggest retailers in Europe called Tesco. So I went to developer meetups, to client meetups, to summits, to conferences, and spoke about our solution that was AI powered before it was cool. So it's around 6-7 years. And it was really interesting to see that presentations is something not a lot of developers want to do, and even less are able to do that effectively. So that kind of created my competitive edge, working with most of the time a lot of smarter people than myself. Think about things that in your organization are considered risky or boring, but really needed. Nobody else wants to do that. I know that for a lot of organization, AI is the topic that a lot of engineers can really dominate. But with all of the speed and sheer volume of the progress that we currently have in AI, probably everyone will have this edge, so it no longer will be a competitive one. Now, a couple of important points. Everyone who works in engineering, design, or technology in general knows this, that sometimes instead of getting promoted in your organization, you can experience job hopping as a faster way to a bigger paycheck. And in one case, it could be a solution, but I would be very cautious about it. Yes, jumping from one job to another in a short period of time, like once per year, changing a company, it might seem that you are kind of adding those initial couple of hundreds of bucks or euros in your account with each of the promotion. You get that new exciting feeling while joining a new team, so everyone is kind of glad to see you joining, but it also creates a very risky situation for your long-term career growth. This could be seen as a very red flag for hiring managers if they see your CV of just jumping from one position to another without actually accomplishing something important and something significant. Also, it creates for you a harder situation to develop your skills and to get that momentum going that you arrive finally at when you are working directly with one organization. Because looking at the growth in organization, if done right, you can actually grow exponentially. You can see more opportunities than anyone else. You can track your success. You can put yourself in the right position, in the right trajectory for the long-term growth in upcoming couple of years. Of course, the world is changing and we do see a situation that we have no idea how everything will look after a couple of years, not to speak about 5 years or beyond. This is the exact blueprint that I promised. You have a roadmap for your first 24 months. You know that speaking about your skill gaps, you need to be very assertive, very direct, of course, polite. You know that it is very important to be a master of one, to create that competitive advantage within your organization, to master the skill that maybe seem as risky or boring. Build relationship with your mentor, with your manager, with your manager's manager, with your manager's peer, and all across the organization. And I know that sometimes it could be confusing. Sometimes you see that month after month, things are changing very fast. You see the change in priorities. You see the change even in strategic direction, especially if we're speaking about smaller companies. But this is where I come up. I can be your personal guide and build your career for success if you are a technology team manager and want more impact, more income, and more freedom. You can find more information of how to work with me below. I do run a personal one-on-one mentorship currently, so it might also be a good place to start. Yes, it is completely possible to engineer your career. With this exact system, now you can do so. Good luck, have fun, and see you in the next one.